during this very challenging time where we had to be forced to be separate from our friends and our colleagues, I was really grateful for this Anchor app, which has allowed me to continue the podcast after almost 1 year of working on it. It's free. You simply go to anchor.fm and download the app. And there you'll find all the tools that you need to record and edit your podcast, as well as to invite people onto your podcast through the app. Anchor also distributes the podcast for you on Apple, Spotify, and many other platforms. You have absolutely nothing to do except to record your podcast. If you have an ad like this, you can also make money. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. I would recommend it for anyone who wants to get their voice out there, has something to contribute. Go for it. Anchor.fm is where you go to download the free app and to get started. Good luck with your podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Bees and Honey podcast. In this new season, we will be speaking with many people who have been engaging in other worlds besides just the contemporary art world. And I think Dim Zayan, as he's known, is one of these people who have really made an impact on the art world, coming from a completely different direction, which I guess would be called technology and finance, because he is a real Bitcoin fan. He's extremely knowledgeable about cryptocurrency, and his new project, Bulltardia, is taking the world by storm. Please listen to his point of view. It's super interesting. Hi, Dim Zayan. How are you?
I'm great, Nicolette. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. I know you're the author of this graphic novel, Bulltardia. Tell us a little bit about yourself first before we get into the graphic novel. Who is Dim Zayan? Where is he from? What does he do? Where did he get that name from?
Well, so I, as my accent can tells you already a little bit that I am French, maybe. But so I was living in France for most of my life. I grew up there, but eventually I moved to New York City, and I spent most of my life as a cosmopolitan, living in megalopolis from Paris to New York. But eventually, a few years ago, I've decided to go off the grid, and I moved to a remote location in the woods. And I got to tell you, this is probably one of the best moves I've made. I'm not regretting any of it. And as an artist, it also changed a lot about how I perceive the world. And, you're always, as an artist, very much affected by your environment. And I can definitely say that it has really translated into my work.
Wow, that's amazing. I really believe that. I think I've seen your work evolve over the years. And in the last year or so, you've had an explosion, so to speak.
Well, yeah, I mean, it also has a lot to do with the team and the medium. I've been doing more traditional media, such as paintings, and I also work with a little bit of LEDs and light sculptures. I don't know if you can call it really traditional media, but over the recent years, because of reasons we can talk about, I've moved towards comic books. I was always interested in comics, and I always drew, but it's a very intimidating process and very different process to draw about the same character over and over again and incorporate a storyline. And this was very new for me. And I think the environment in which I am right now helped making that transition and giving me the confidence to do something like that.
Wow, yeah. So tell us about Bulltardia. How did the idea come about? The main character is a honey badger. How did you come up with these characters and the story of Bulltardia?
Well, I have to say that I really didn't come up with the character itself. It's the community with it. There is I've been interested in Bitcoin since 2014 or 15, and I really always wanted to do a piece of artwork that talks about it. But talking about something such as Bitcoin is very difficult, especially when you think about something as dry as a topic that relates to finance and technology. It's not easy to make it sexy and appealing, right? And to be able to convey an idea to people that are not that interested in finance or technology. But I still wanted to tell a story around it. And at first I was publishing charts. I got into trading a little bit, and I was publishing charts on a website called TradingView that is actually for financial traders to look at financial charts and discuss ideas around it. But I was trying to incorporate art into it, because a chart in itself, can be very dry, but it's a very graphic element that can be used as an artistic expression, and in some ways it can be quite beautiful. And I wanted to do a story around those charts, and that's where the idea of using a story of a honey badger, which is the character that is commonly used to depict Bitcoin in social media. And I wanted to use that honey badger story on the chart. So it was following the story of the honey badger moving along on the chart, and I was incorporating graphical elements and storylines around the price of Bitcoin. But eventually I realized that a chart is very limiting, and it's really the platform itself is really not designed to make this kind of artworks. So I got very frustrated in using it, and eventually I needed to find a different medium. So that's when I thought, hey, why not do a comic book? And that's how it started. So I started working on the story, of course, and on the characters. And because Bitcoin was already depicted by an animal, I said, well, why not make it entirely a fable and use only animals and a complete imaginary world around the world of Bitcoin?
Wow. Well, can you tell us a bit of the story or not?
Yes, absolutely. So the story starts in, how Bitcoin started. It started around the same time as the subprime crisis, and it was 2008 and ongoing, and you had a little later Occupy Wall Street. So there was a lot of turmoil in the financial world, but also, socially, economically, there was a lot of instability, and it was the start of a shift in mindsets. And I'm using that as a background to start the story, because that's the context in which Bitcoin started. And it starts with this gathering of three characters that are being oppressed a little bit by a church, the Church of Fiat, who is depicted by birds, mostly eagles. And they say how they are being oppressed, and that they cannot really pay what they owe to the church, and they want to revolt a little bit. But at the same time, they're being found by one of the members of the church, a collector that came to arrest one of the characters. So that's the background. And the two other characters realize that, they're a little bit powerless, and they need to find somebody that can help them. And that's where they go find the most fearless and fierce animal they know around, which is a honey badger. And I don't know if you know honey badgers in reality, but they are really fierce creatures. They are tiny, not tiny, but they're small, but they take on lions and much bigger animals and much more scarier animals than they look like. So honey badgers, that's why it's supposedly the honey badger of money, Bitcoin, because it's fearless and it's the David against Goliath.
Absolutely. It's a biblical story, and it's really a story of our time right now, reflective of much greater things in our social circles, in our world.
Absolutely. I mean, we are living incredible times. I don't like to say it like that because I may sound like I'm really enjoying the turmoil that we had over these last few years, and especially 2020, which was really horrible. But at the same time, it's the revolution has started, at least from an economical standpoint. We realize that there is a lot of old model which keep trying to fit in, and it simply doesn't. And whatever people in power or in control try to bring to the table, it's always the same model over and over again. And something like Bitcoin is really coming as a new solution to an existing problem that didn't have any solution before, or that was always patched. You were giving an Advil to somebody who has a broken arm. It's not possible. It's not going to solve the problem. So right. Bitcoin really comes as a potential new solution. I'm not saying that it solves everything, but it does solve parts of the problem. The main issue with Bitcoin is that it didn't have a good rep from the start. It was regarded from a lot of people as something criminal, which was really untrue. So now progressively the mindset is shifting, and I think more and more people are going to adopt Bitcoin.
Well, since we got to this topic, let me just ask these two questions, then we'll get back to Bulltardia, because it does fit in anyways with Bulltardia. But would you say that Bitcoin has reached its highest level right now at around $20,000 US, or are you one of those believers who think it might go up to $1 million or more?
Well, let's just put it that way. I have no idea how far Bitcoin will go, but I do believe that it's the money of the future. I do believe that there will be a worldwide adoption eventually, because it is ready for it. It, like I said, it provides a lot of the answers to a lot of problems that we are having. So Bitcoin not moving farther than what it is today. It's not something I'm considering. I really think that it will go far and beyond.
Mm-hmm. And do you think these governmental agencies will one day adopt it after demonizing it for so long? Do you think governments will one day have this cryptocurrency as part of their whole economic system?
It's already started. They try to kill Bitcoin many times, right? And at some point, if you cannot fight it, join it. The thing is, they're trying to control it. They're trying to make sure that it doesn't have privacy. It's not really peer-to-peer. They really want to put their hands on it. And the very principle of Bitcoin is at stake if they do, because Bitcoin should remain private, not just for people like us, but if you think about, if you're in the US or if you're in the Western world, it's less of a problem. People don't necessarily think as privacy as something as important, at least from a financial standpoint. But if you live in areas of the world that are oppressed, where the government is a totalitarian regime, and your privacy financially is very important. So I think to those
Yes.
people, keeping privacy intact is essential. And that's why Bitcoin is very popular, even more so in those parts of the world. Um, I think
Absolutely.
eventually there's no way to dissociate, and having some areas of the world that follow a certain set of rules and not the others, if we think of Bitcoin as a global currency. So that's why I believe
Wow.
it
Yeah.
will be privacy will remain if Bitcoin wins, and
Mm-hmm.
and governments will not be able to control it. They tried so many times and they failed. So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if tomorrow something may change, but for now I have strong belief that Bitcoin will remain independent.
Absolutely. And if we look at the story of David and Goliath, well, we know who won that battle in the Bible.
Absolutely.
So now book one of Bulltardia is out now. How can people find it? How can people purchase a copy? Or is it only in print or is it also digital? How does it work?
So when I started Bulltardia, I did it digitally, and
Mm-hmm.
I got a chance to be published by the wonderful folks of an online magazine called Citadel 21, which is Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
centric. So it's really by people that
Mm-hmm.
believe in Bitcoin and that are what we call maximalist, which is, there are many
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrencies, but we only believe that Bitcoin is the solution. The other ones are having maybe at times some of the features of Bitcoin, but not everything. And mostly they are not really decentralized in the sense that they belong to a company. And by belonging to a company, you are by essence, you can be controlled and you can be changed. Your position can be skewed by outside influence, which is not the case with Bitcoin. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why there is a strong belief that Bitcoin is the solution, not necessarily the others. But so that magazine is really Bitcoin centric, and they wanted to publish Bulltardia, and since then, on a monthly basis, an episode of Bulltardia has been published there. In
Oh,
addition to
wow.
it, I've recently published a print version of the book, of the first two episodes. Other books are going
Mm-hmm.
to come afterwards, but it takes some time
Mm-hmm.
because I started working on the digital version and the web format, and I had to translate all those
Mm-hmm.
drawings into something that would work well in a book. So it's a little bit of work, and that's why it
Mm-hmm.
takes some time, but eventually I will get there.
Mm-hmm.
The print version is available. I was making sales online manually. I was taking them via Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm working on a new version of the
Mm-hmm.
website, and soon you will be able to buy it on the website on bulltardia.com.
Wow, that's cool. And so you're working on the next book, but how do you envision Bultardia ending or carrying on, as the case may be? Do you have an idea, or are you waiting to see how the creative juices flows?
Look, that's the main challenge is not to run out of ideas, is to be able to curate those ideas, because there's so much happening in Bitcoin world, in the world of Bitcoin since I started. I started the idea in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and there is so much to talk about. And making one episode as being just myself, it takes a lot of time. So I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot to talk about. Now I have to decide, what can make it to the story and what can't. This is my main issue.
Wow, yeah. So
Season
go
no, go
ahead.
ahead. I mean, season one is close to an end. Probably
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 more episodes, and then I'm going to take a break to really
Mm-hmm.
think this through, because I realized that making one episode at a time is a bit
Mm-hmm.
challenging. I think it's a better approach would be to make an entire season so that you can publish on a regular basis.
Right. And also then you could take a break in between as opposed to constantly having to have this output.
That's true. And, Nicolette, I have also other projects that I'm working on that I like to dedicate some time on that are not necessarily unrelated, but maybe through a different medium. I want to go back to also do a more painting and incorporate as well the Bitcoin topic in those paintings. Or, the state of the current world. There is a whole set of paintings that I'm thinking about that work well with the story of Bulltardia and the story of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, getting back to that, because yes, I know you have this background in painting, and over the years you came up with these characters that you had in both works on paper and canvas. So some of these Bulltardia characters must have been influenced somehow by that work you were doing in the past, that character creation.
Definitely. I mean, you even if, as I said, your environment affects you, you also bring what your luggage. And my visual library is already set in a way. So I had a lot of those elements, and I was trying to bring them in, but at the same time, I didn't want to feel stuck into that language and try to incorporate new elements, because with every medium you have to be able to be flexible and adapt. So right. I think it's the combination of the past and what I've used in traditional media with what I'm bringing in digitally that can make a new story. Mm-hmm.
And are you doing anything with music these days, or do you just do that like just recreationally now to take a break from all this Bitcoin Bulltardia stories?
Well, music is a totally different beast. And I have to say, the thing about music is that whenever I got into music, it drained me so much. It's really, I went down that rabbit hole, and I went so deep that I was not able to even function as a human being. So I didn't see it as a very healthy process for me. And I prefer to keep it, to look at it from a distance and enjoy everybody else wonderful creations than trying to do it myself.
Well, it's interesting because, it's like the muse is even a harder taskmaster with music. You have to surrender perhaps even more than with the visual arts, which you're engaging in right now.
Yes. I mean, it goes back. It's funny that you said the process of making music, in my mind at least, or in the way I approach it, was in a little bit like the results, in the sense that you make a piece, you produce a song, and you consume it instantly. It's the consumption is the time of the song, and then you can listen to it over and over again if you want. But there is an instant reward and a time set in the terms of how you consume it. And I suppose this is the same in making the process of making it. You involve and you have to immerse yourself within that time. And during that time, there's nothing else that matters, and you have to stay in it. When I'm making a painting, it's a very different process in the sense that I'm starting a painting, and then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to start maybe another painting and go back to that painting again after. But I know how to get out of it, take a time to look at it, and come back into it. There is some kind of dynamics that involves movement of my body in the room. So it's something spatial. Whereas when I'm making music, I'm really staying in that environment with the instruments or with the computer when I'm doing editing, and I'm not moving. And it's a very, very different process. I know I'm sure for some people it's a very different approach, but for me, I didn't know how to do it any otherwise.
Yes. And how is your dog Bowie? Do you think he influenced you as well? I mean, being so close to What is he? He's not a German Shepherd. He's a what
He's a
again? A
Eurasia. Yeah.
He's a Eurasia. Yes. So how are things
That
going with him?
wonderful dog. He definitely influenced my work in the sense that it pushes me to stop, to take breaks. Because every
Yes.
morning and every afternoon he comes to the office and say, "Hey, Dad, it's time for you to take me out. Let's go." So it gives me some kind of cadence and rhythm on a daily basis that is, I think, very important. And I probably would stay in my work cave much more longer if I didn't have that dog around.
Yes, so thank goodness. Yeah, he's definitely part of the creative process, as I imagine.
Yes, absolutely. And
well, is there anything else you wanted to add before we hang up?
No, I mean, it's if you're interested in Bulltardia, also if you want to purchase the book, I encourage you to get involved in Bitcoin if you're not already having some, because anyway, you won't be able to purchase it if you don't have Bitcoin. It's only a Bitcoin purchase. And if you're not interested, you can always go online on citadel21.com or on bulltardia.com and be able to read the story for free.
Wow. And where would they find you on Twitter and on the other social media platforms? Under what name, handle?
I am on Twitter at so the Twitter handle is CryptGM, CRYPTGM. Otherwise, you can find me under Dim Zayan in general.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, I think we have all the ways to find you. And yeah, I forgot to ask, but you reminded us that you can only buy Bulltardia.
Yes, well, I thought that was a good incentive for people that are interested to kickstart the process.
Well, you're right. I guess we could go and figure out how much does it cost anyway?
Well, it's a bit so it's a limited edition right now. There's only 210 copies that have been created and that will ever be created. And I'm releasing it in sets of 21. The two first sets are already sold out. And the third set will be available, I hope, when the website is out, I hope before the end of the year. And so it was 210,000 Satoshi was the price when I originally released the book. And that was the equivalent about $21 at the time. The thing is, Bitcoin has gone up so much lately, it makes the book much more expensive. So I'm gonna have probably to rethink the price for that book.
Well, I like how the number of editions is reflective of the concept of Bitcoin itself, in terms of the number of Bitcoin in the world is not ever going to change.
Exactly, and it's 21 million. So as you can imagine, 21 is a symbol in the Bitcoin community.
Right. Interesting. Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and your creative talent. And we look forward to seeing much more of you and the Honey Badger in
Thank you so much, Nicolette. Nice talking to you.
Okay, take care. We'll talk soon. Yeah. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Good holiday. Bye. Bye. Thank you for joining us on this episode. I hope you enjoyed learning about Bulltardia and listening to Dim Zayan describe his creative process. If you can, definitely go on to bulltardia.com or Citadel21 to read the story and keep on keeping on. Hopefully you've bought some Bitcoin so you can also buy the graphic novel in its physical form. Take care and have a great week.